Hello guys, we're back with yet another video, and today we're going to be doing, even though it's very late, the December reading wrap-up. I did read a lot of books in the month of December. December was actually one of my best months of 2025. I didn't read a lot of good books in 2025, and I feel like this last month I read a lot of not only good books but also a lot of books, period. So I just want to go through all the books that I've read and kind of just talk about them with you guys, okay? Alright, so first book on the list is 𝘰𝘰𝘯 Bookstore by 𝘰𝘱𝘦𝘯. This was the first book that I read in the month of December, and this was a 1-star. So many things about this book. Don't even get me started on how this looks like it's a fall read, but it takes place during the summer. I was going to read this in the summer if I had known this was in the summer, first of all. Second of all, this was boring. There was no genuine character development, and it was kind of like insta-love, if that makes sense. And I didn't enjoy the story. It was also really boring, and it was poorly written, bad grammar. It just wasn't for me, and I feel like 𝘰𝘱𝘦𝘯 mass produces her books. Like, if you like pay attention, she publishes at least 7 books a year, and they're all in this series, and I feel like, oh my gosh, it's so mass produced that there's no time to take place during the editing, because it feels like it's not edited at all, and that's kind of what upset me. I have an entire reading vlog where I read this and some other books that are in the stack, but this book was in that reading vlog, so you guys can actually hear my full opinions on that in real time in that vlog. It'll be on the screen somewhere at some point during the video, so you guys can go watch it. But that was just the 𝘰𝘰𝘯 Bookstore. I was not a fan of it. The second book that I read in the month of December was actually a novella to a 𝘰𝘰𝘯 series, like duology thing that I'm reading, and it was 𝘰𝘰𝘯 to Mischief by DECEMEBER. This was a 2-star. I was, first of all, really bored. Second of all, I just think that in general I don't like this couple because I didn't like their actual book, and I didn't like the novella either. And I was hoping the novella would kind of like revive them in a way, and I didn't enjoy it. I was actually really bored, and I wanted it to be over the whole time. But once again, that was also in that reading vlog, so you guys can go check out my thoughts in real time. That's just kind of the rundown on how I felt. The third book that I read in the month of December is a book by an author that used to be indie, but I think she's now officially signed to a company now. So first of all, good for her, congratulations. But second of all, it was a 3-star, so I'm not sure if I was really liking whatever happened, because with her full-length books, I didn't like her novella because the novella that she wrote felt like it was insta-love, but her actual full-length novels that I've read of hers, I usually really enjoy. And this one I didn't enjoy as much. I was actually bored in this book, and I feel like maybe there was something that was changed because it just didn't feel like 𝘰𝘱𝘯's writing. So yes, this is a 𝘰𝘱𝘯's book, and it is Game On. When I mentioned it, you probably already knew what book this was, but it is Game On by 𝘰𝘱𝘯. But something else I noticed, and I said this in another video, I don't remember what video it was, but I said whenever Hannah Grace likes a book, I end up not liking a book, and it's so weird when I think about it, because any book that she's reviewed I always end up not liking, and not just because I don't like Hannah Grace's writing in and of itself, I just don't like it. I feel like she focuses way more on the smart and then the actual plot. But not that I just automatically don't like a book because Hannah Grace liked it, but genuinely when I read a book that Hannah Grace liked, it usually sounds like it's something that's from her books, or it sounds like her kind of writing, and I don't like the way Hannah Grace writes, right? So I was just really bored, and I was just like, this really reminds me of like other books, not like other books as if like inspiration, but like in the sense of like the writing style. I was like, the writing style kind of reminds me of other authors' writing styles, and I'm not really sure that I'm liking it. I was really bored during this book, and I feel like it was just, I was really bored, and I was actually enjoying it so much in the beginning, but then we had like the halfway mark, and then it started to drag out, the unnecessary plots, so all of that. I just really wish it had ended sooner. The fourth book that I read in the month of December was Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. This book was 5 stars, and I actually have a video where you guys can watch me read this. It was so much fun. I enjoyed it. It was just awesome. It was great. I feel like the writing was amazing. Like, I just found that I always end up enjoying Lynn Painter books, so I think I'm gonna stick with Lynn Painter in the month of, in the year 2026, because I have not disliked anything that she's written so far. The 5th book that I read in the month of December was in the Stars by Layla Sharifi. This book I also read in a reading vlog, the same reading vlog that I read at the 𝘰𝘱𝘯 bookstore and Game On in. So if you guys want to go check that out, once again, the video is on my channel somewhere, and you guys have seen the thumbnail on the screen at some point during the video. But this book I rated 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I did think it was a little dragged out near the end, and there were some things that could have been cut out, but it is also a debut novel. There were a few grammar and spelling mistakes as well, so yeah, I did enjoy it though, and I feel like the story is so unique. It was so fun, it was great, and I definitely do think that it could have been a little better. Obviously, like it's not a perfect 5 star, there's always room for improvement. Even if it is a 5 star, there's always room for improvement in writing. And this was really great for a debut novel, and I enjoyed myself, and I do think you guys should go read this one. The 6th book that I read in the month of December was Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book was 4 stars, and I had a lot of fun. I actually read this in either a day or 2. This was just a great, quick, fast-paced read, and I would say there are no trigger warnings for this book, but I would say be on the lookout for trigger warnings, look them up, because this book is kind of dark. There are multiple mentions of things like suicide and death and all that grief, and there's a lot in this book, and it's pretty heavy, but it was really quick, it was fun, and I feel like it had just an amazing life message. And I feel like this is just a normal non-fiction book. This is just a normal fiction book, and I feel like for me to enjoy a normal fiction book is crazy, because I don't like just fiction. I like fiction with romance, or I like fiction with fantasy, I like fiction with thrillers, but I don't just like fiction stories where there's just no kind of romance subplot. I've never ever enjoyed a fiction like that. But this was special. I enjoyed this so much. The message was great, and it was so fast-paced, and I was so gripped and excited to read it. I could not put this book down to save my life. That's how good this book was. So do I recommend this? Do I recommend reading this? Yes, absolutely, 100%. This book was great. It was amazing. I love it so much. The 7th book that I read in the month of December was The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, and this book was 4 stars. Now, I did not enjoy this book for about half of it. Why is the bookmark still in here? I finished this a long time ago. For half of this book, I did not enjoy it. I felt like we were running in circles, it was repetitive, and we were just doing the same thing over and over again. And I don't reward bad behavior, but it got really good near the middle, and especially the end. I see what this is like. I feel like the first one out of all of them the best. The first one is the best so far what I've read, but I do see why people absolutely love The Ballad of Never After, because the ending and the plot and the story and how things go after you kind of get past that boring-ish part that's from this right here. Once you get to right here, it's all it's heads up. Genuinely, it was so good after the part that I did not enjoy. I just felt like at the beginning we were running in circles and there wasn't much to it, but I see people love this book so much now, and it was great. I had fun. It was a great adventure, and I definitely do feel like this book is an experience. This entire trilogy is an experience. Caraval is an experience. About Never After is an experience, and I always say this, I recommend reading Caraval first. I really did enjoy Caraval. I know a lot of people don't, but I enjoyed it, and I feel like you have to read Caraval first, because the male main character is in Caraval, and the reason he acts the way he does and some of the things that are referenced and even outright said in the book spoil Caraval. So if you're thinking about reading which one do I read first, please read Caraval first, because this will spoil Caraval for you, and it's just gonna be a Debbie Downer, right? So there's multiple references to Caraval that you're not gonna understand unless you read Caraval, and they're also going to spoil Caraval for you in The Ballad of Never After, because this is meant to be read second. The 8th book that I read in the month of December is one that I really enjoyed. This book was so cute, it was so fun, and it was actually so fast-paced. I think I read this in 1 night or 2 days, literally, and it is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This book, guys, did I enjoy Part 6 Perfect? Not really. I feel like it was very childish, and there was I was just bored. But When in Rome, I felt was a good small town story, and this is the kind of book that I look for when I go to read stuff that Laura Gilmore writes, if that makes sense. This is the small town that I love. This really gives off the Gilmore Girls vibes. This book is like Gilmore Girls if it were to be like a novel, like a romance novel, and it was just so fun. It was so cute. I love it. It was very unique. It was very special, and I do think that if you're planning on reading this, then I would just say like go ahead, jump right into it, because this is so much fun, especially since In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams just released I want to say last week. This is a good book to like kind of get you out of a slump. This was so fun. So the 9th book that I read in the month of December is Coraline, the graphic novel. Now if you guys know what the Coraline story, it's a classic. I genuinely do believe that Coraline is going to be a classic one day though, but Coraline is, in a children's sense, a classic. So this is the graphic novel, which actually makes things so scary. Like, these drawings are literally absurd. So yes, this book, this graphic novel right here, I don't think was better than the actual novel or the movie. The novel and the movie were better than the graphic novel. I feel like this one was kind of boring, and that's so weird because like it's really literally just the novel with art, but I just feel like this was slower paced and I just couldn't get through it the way that I could the actual novel or the movie. So if you're planning on reading this one, I really feel like it's up to you. I don't really have a full-formed opinion on the graphic novel. Last book that I read is a novelette by Sierra Spencer, and it's called A Very Scared Christmas. This was 3 stars. It was good to a sense, but it also was very repetitive, and it also really annoyed me because there were certain senses where the characters would obviously acknowledge their feelings for each other and they'd be like, oh well, and it wasn't like there was even a lot of scenes where like even in the beginning where it was just like, okay, like show should be over, we already figured out, and then it's just like nope, that's not what's happening. So I was just kind of like, okay, well now I just feel like we're running in circles and I'm pretty bored. So yes, that is everything that I read in the month of December. I will say December was a pretty good reading month compared to the other reading months that we had in the year of 2025, and I did feel like it was a good way to end off the year. I read a total of 85, I wouldn't say books, or 90 books maybe, I don't know. I read books and I had fun and I enjoyed the books that I read, and I feel like they were great. Reading is not a competition. We're supposed to read what we enjoy, and all these books, even though I did not enjoy a lot of the books that I read in 2025, I do think that first of all, I was reading them because I want to experience them, and it also kind of showed me what I like and what I don't like in books. And now when I go into 2025, I know which authors I want to return to and which ones I want to stay away from. And I feel like that was just it was a good thing that I read books I didn't like in 2025, because now I know what genres I do enjoy, what genres I don't enjoy, what authors I do enjoy, and what authors I want to return to, and what authors I don't enjoy that I don't want to ever read a book by ever again. Maybe I also read a lot of authors for the first time, so I read their books for the first time ever, and I kind of formed an opinion on those authors based off of the book that I read. And I do think that 2025 was, even though in my sense I say 2024 was a better year in reading than 2025, not only because I read 100 books in 2024, but also because I enjoyed more books in 2024. And like 2025 was a good reading year because I was like, okay, I first of all exceeded my goal. My goal last year was 50 books and I exceeded that. And also I learned more about myself and my taste grew and it changed. And I learned, okay, this is what I don't want to do in 2026 and this is what I do want to do in 2026. So yes, that is it. I know that the December TBR came late. Your girl has been busy and I'm also very tired. I just came back from a 3-day trip, so please have some mercy on me, guys. I got things to do, but I love you all so much. Man, kisses, mwah, Maddie out, and goodbye.